with the Chef Yves. I'm Chef Yves Deshane, and I'm here at the Greener Villages Learning Kitchen. And today we're with the Executive Director of the Learning Kitchen, Mr. Alex Boyd. So Alex is going to join me today while I make an eggplant parmesan. Something that my grandmother showed me how to make. It's actually the leftovers from the parmesan that my grandma used to make. I liked it so much that when there was leftovers, I used to sneak down and make sandwiches, and that's basically where this comes from. And it makes a great lunch, and it's easy, and it's a great way to show people how to take the meal before and recreate a second meal out of it.
I love that idea, and I've never had eggplant parmesan before in my life, so I'm looking forward to watching you make it and then getting to try it after you're all done.
Perfect. So we'll just get started. So what you're going to need is you're going to need an eggplant. So an eggplant, basically aubergine, if you're looking for the fancy $15 term for it, but it's just a nice plant. Grows on a plant kind of like, it's a nightshade plant, I guess, kind of like tomatoes, things like that. So all we're going to do right now is we're just going to trim the ends off, and you really don't want the ends. And again, my grandmother gave me this tip, and it works for cucumbers. I don't know why, but she told me this the other day when we were talking, is if you rub the ends like this, it kind of pulls the bitter out. I don't know if that's a wives' tale or not, but you know what? If Granny said it works, then it works.
I've actually heard that before, and I'm not a cook by any stretch, but I've heard that tip. So
okay, perfect.
Yves, why do they call it an eggplant?
An eggplant. So an eggplant, when it starts to grow, and what it looks like is when it comes out, it's white and it pops out, so it looks like a little egg sitting on a plant. So it looks like a tomato plant with little white tomatoes that actually form and look like eggs. And as they grow, they kind of pull out into this shape, and then they get dark and purple.
So I always wondered that because they don't look anything like eggs to me. But what you're saying is that when they first start growing, they look just like an egg.
Just like an egg, yeah, exactly. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to cut them into strips just like this, probably about a ½ inch, just like that. And then we are going to want to salt these and put a little bit of pepper and season them, because it will, even though we've rubbed the ends, you're not going to pull all that bitter out. So I usually put them on a paper towel just like this, like that. And then we're just going to pop a little bit of salt and pepper. So if you want to, just sprinkle a little bit of salt all over that, and then we'll get them ready.
Now, you made that cutting look easy. Any tips and tricks for a person who's not real familiar with cutting vegetables like this on how to do it easy?
Well, what you do is you want to, definitely it's the knife control. How you hold your knife makes a big difference on what's going on. So a lot of people I notice hold their knives back because they're afraid of the blade. But what happens is if you push down, you don't have very much control on your hand. I see a lot of people who put their finger like this, and it's the same thing. You push down and it kind of falls. So if you have a stiffer, tougher vegetable, it's hard to get in. So what you want to do is you kind of want to grip it up against, choke up on it. Once you start getting comfortable like myself, I kind of put my forefinger and my thumb on the blade, and then what we do is it's a nice rocking motion. And your other hand, I call it the cutting claw, you just kind of keep your hand kind of curled in like this.
Awesome.
And your thumb always not behind, because your thumb always has a tendency to kind of shoot out. And shoot out, the knife likes to bite anything that's kind of in its way, and that's usually how most accidents happen, is inattention and kind of not knowing where to place your hands. So there you go.
Yeah, that's an awesome tip for not cutting your fingers, because I've done that before. It's not fun.
Perfect. So you've got that all salted right now, and we're going to probably put a little bit of pepper just to add a little bit of seasoning on there. I mean, it's not necessary. So all we're going to do is we're just going to draw the bitter. Now, what you could do as well, and my grandmother used to do this too, is she get a bath of ice water and salted ice water. She put the eggplant in there. Okay. I think it's a step that you can avoid because, I mean, we're just doing a fast, quick fry, and I kind of like the flavor of the eggplant. I like that little bitter tone and things like that, but that's just an evolution from what Grandma used to do. But
yeah. And this seems like a really good quick lunch, so you don't want to necessarily add a whole bunch of steps that's going to make it long, I don't think,
well,
right?
That's it. The grandma used to, which is funny because she was like, you want me to make eggplant? That's a lot of work, dear. You know, it's a whole lot of work, but Grandma loves you, and Grandma's going to do it anyway. So, and then as I'm doing this and as I'm learning, it's like, no, Grandma it was finicky. It wasn't hard. It was just finicky. And again, if she did it all the time, it wouldn't be special. So it was special for us. So now that we've got that there, we're going to let them sit. We're going to bread it now. So we need to create a dredging station. So to create a dredging station, and this dredging station can transmit into anything. If you're doing chicken fingers, if you're doing fish,
Okay.
or anything like that, it's just a basic dredge station. So you need 3 plates, and then what you do is you start off with egg. So the first one, I'm going to put in a couple egg.
Oh, one-handed egg crack. I like that.
Well, I mean, it's practice, I guess. As you do them, and I've been doing a lot when I've done this a while, so you get quick at it. All we're going to do is we're just going to mix this up. It may need a little bit of water or a little bit of milk, but I think we're good with the size of eggs we're using. So to that, and remember, always season. So I'm going to add a little bit of pepper, and we're going to toss in, thanks Alex, a little bit of salt. We're going to season that. And then next for your dredge is flour. So you get your eggs, so you're going to wet your eggplant or whatever it is, your chicken finger, your piece of fish. You're going to dredge it, then you're going to egg it, then you're going to breadcrumb it. So again, your flour, we're going to salt and pepper it. Always salt and pepper. If you wanted to add a little bit of oregano or thyme or anything like that in there, that's a good place to add your seasonings.
Okay, so that's the spice that you prefer, whatever it may be.
Whatever it may be,
Okay.
whatever goes well or complements the dish. So if you're doing like catfish or kind of fish and you want to have a Cajun type of seasoning, you'd put your paprika in there, you put your Cajun spice, your cayenne pepper right in
Great.
the flour. And that way it would just absorb right in there just like that. And then here we've got Panko breadcrumbs. So Panko breadcrumbs are a Japanese style breadcrumb. They're a little bit crunchier, but it doesn't mean that you can't use a regular breadcrumb or save the heels, seeing that we're at the Greener Village and we're
Right.
talking about reusing food and stretching our dollar the best we can. The heels of the bread, I make sandwiches. I just kind of flip them inside out so it doesn't feel like I'm eating a crust.
That's a great tip.
But yeah,
I never
yeah.
thought of that.
But there we go. So there you get your dredging station set up just like this. We're going to turn our pan on to medium high. And we're just going to let that warm up. We'll be right back with Easy Eats and Alex after this. Welcome back to Easy Eats. I'm Chef Yves Duchesne, and I have with me today Alex Boyd, director of the Greener Village, and we're making eggplant parmesan sandwiches.
So Yves, before the break, you mentioned that you use eggs for the second step of the dredge process, but you say you may add a little milk and water. Can you explain to me how you know when you should and why you do that?
Well, I like to start with nothing in there, but sometimes you may start running out of eggs. So it's just a simple way to stretch it and kind of get a little bit more length instead of having to crack another egg. It'll always kind of stretch it. And again, we're trying to save a little bit of money. Water
Right.
costs a little less than an extra egg would.
So you can do that kind of in the middle of the process. If you realize you're getting low, you can do that. You don't have to do it at the beginning necessarily.
Well, yeah, no, you don't have to, but if you're almost out and you add water, well, you should probably add an extra egg. It's just you can kind of judge as you're doing it whether you're going to need it or not, and that's kind of how I kind of play with it. I mean, it's practice, Alex.
Thank you.
Alex, while I dredge these and all that, can you explain a little bit, other than giving me a chance to play in this kitchen and stuff like that, what does the Greener Village do for the community?
Yeah, well, thanks for giving me the chance to do that, Yves. The reality is Greener Village is an organization that's trying to help our community and the people in our community live healthy and sustainable lives. So for us, that means running a food bank to make sure people have the food they need to feed their families, but also to give them opportunities to learn how to cook from a chef like yourself, to get some good used clothing and used housewares from our unique boutique, hopefully to take advantage of our garden and growing program so they can learn how to grow food for themselves. In fact, you could grow this very eggplant in our gardens in the summer and do this whole recipe that you're learning today. So Greener Village is very much here for the community and to try to help people to do the best that they can with the resources that they have.
So if you don't need our services, a great way to support our services is by supporting our other programs that are going on in the community.
Absolutely. So our clothing boutique is open to the public. People can come in and shop in it as a thrift store. And when they do that, of course, the money that they spend in our thrift store helps us to provide our programming, helps us to buy milk and eggs for our food banks clients, helps us to provide staff to make our boutique really special for our clients.
And that's why I love working here, and it's fantastic. So we'll get back to the matter at hand. I noticed that I realized that I threw to you, but I didn't show people how I'm dredging all of this
Awesome.
stuff.
I want to know that.
So you're going to grab your eggplant, and like I said, we're just going to draw a little bit of moisture, so you can see right here that some of the moisture's dripped out through these rings. So we're pulling as much in so we can introduce as much flavor with the egg and the seasoned flour. So what you're going to do is you're going to dry your surface or make it more. Basically, the flour is to make the egg stick.
Okay.
And then the egg is to make the crumb stick. So you just kind of dip it. And you're going to notice I have one hand that I use for dipping and then one hand I use for frying. And that's really important because if you're doing a lot of amount, you need one hand that's clean to kind of touch and work everything else.
I suppose especially with uncooked meat like chicken or something like that, you want to keep that cross-contamination out, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
So all you do now is you just kind of dredge and then just coat and flip and then just work a few things around like that. And then if you want a crispier crust, all you do is dip again.
Oh, a double dip.
A double dip. So
you
especially when I'm doing chicken, this is what I usually do is I'll double dip to get a nice crispy.
So this is a socially acceptable double dip.
Absolutely.
Okay,
exactly.
I like
So when you're saying socially acceptable, so that leads me to another point. So once we finish doing this, all of this stuff, even if there's anything left, you can't save. It needs to be thrown out because, again, cross-contamination, so on and so forth. Eggs have a risk of salmonella. You should assume they may not have it, but it's an assumption that you should always take.
Err on the side of caution.
Err on the side of caution. So all of this stuff needs to be thrown out. So that's why it's important. Like I said, you add a little bit of water if you need to stretch it. If you don't need to stretch it, then it's no big deal. Then you're good. All right, so we're at this point right now, and I've got our pan going right now at a medium-high heat. I put some oil in there, and I'm just going to wash my hands off here for a second to get the dredge off. And then you add your oil, and then to know that your oil's hot, I don't know if you can see it from here. See how the oil's kind of rippling?
Yes, I do see that.
And it's free-flowing, so oil will usually be kind of sluggish in the pan when it's cold. Like oil gets a little bit more viscous as it warms up.
Okay.
So it kind of slides around. So now you know. Now, if you bring it up and you're seeing smoke, you've brought it too high. We don't want to burn anything, so we just kind of want to bring it to that oil starting to ripple.
Okay.
And then we're just going to.
Yeah, you can see that nice ripple in the pan. That's really neat.
And then you're just going to, and again, you don't want to overcrowd your pan as well. So that's a common mistake a lot of people make too, is they'll fill this pan up full. And then what happens is when you fill it up full, the heat drops.
Right.
And then you don't get that crispy crust that you're kind of looking for. So you mentioned the boutique, and all those other things like that. So food into fashion is their motto.
Right. So what the boutique does is people donate their used goods, and we have a robust sorting program that helps us to pick the items that we think are the most useful to the clients and to the people who shop in our boutique. Those items then go out to our boutique. They're priced extremely reasonably for everyone in the community to be able to come in and find something that they need for their family, whether it's small household appliances or dishware, whether it's decorative things like paintings or vases, whether it's clothing, kids items, baby clothes, a whole selection of books and wall hangings and drapes and curtains. When they spend the money there, because we're turning fashion into food, we're able to buy milk and eggs. We're able to supply that to our clients. It's just a great place to come. It's high ceilings and bright lights, and it's very inviting. And the staff are great. I mean, I'm a little biased, but our staff in the boutique are just awesome, and they're very helpful to make sure that you can get what you need for your family to put that winter coat on a kid or put a pair of snow pants. Maybe there's winter boots, the whole section of kids' shoes, all sorts of stuff that's there for people to be able to get access to those good things. At the end of the day, we don't want to throw out perfectly good clothes. We want to be able to reuse that and have that resource stay in the community. So it's perfect for that.
No, that's fantastic. So we put our eggplant in the pan. So basically all we're doing is we're kind of just frying it. So like you would a chicken tender or anything like that. You can even put these in the oven and bake them if you're looking for something a little bit less. I prefer frying, but then we are still going to use the oven. So once they're fried like this, I give them about 2 or 3 minutes per side.
And are you looking for a certain consistency in them when you fry them?
No, I'm looking for maybe just color.
Okay.
Really, because we've cut them so thin, and with the heat, they'll soften up, and then we're going to put them under the broiler. So that's to melt the cheese and stuff.
That's going to
so
cook
it's
them
going to
even
get
more.
even more. And again, I'm doing with leftovers. They'll be cooked already, so it's just a matter of repurposing them. So we're just going to put them onto this sheet pan right here. And I only did a few just to show you, and I'll finish up the rest later, but we're just And we're just going to clean this up a little bit, just kind of take all of that out. But we will keep the pan on for something else. But here we go. So once they all look like this, we're going to top them because it's a Parmesan. So if you're doing a chicken Parmesan, an eggplant Parmesan, there's really no difference. This is kind of where you're at.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we will top this with just regular old tomato sauce. You can, if you've made it, that's perfect. If not, you just grab a can of tomato sauce. You put a couple, 3 tablespoons over the top, just like that.
And what if I wanted to learn how to make my own pasta sauce?
Yeah.
Is that something you would teach here at Greener Village, that sort of thing?
Oh no, absolutely. We anything you really want to do. We offer like collective kitchens. Hopefully, once the pandemic is through, we'll invite people in, and then it's basically what we do is I want to teach you what you want to learn. There's no sense in just saying this is what I'm doing. We're actually, right now with the pandemic, we're offering online programming. So we've kind of been playing around the last couple of months with street foods and kind of showing people how street foods are fun and they're great when you're going out. But if you want to recreate that at home and you don't have the budget, then you can do it at home and it's just as easy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it makes it just as tasty.
Just as tasty. So yeah, and speaking of tasty, we're going to top these bad boys with some mozzarella cheese.
Okay.
Or any kind of cheese you have.
Okay, I was going to ask that. The cheese doesn't really matter. It's more about your taste and what your preference is.
Well, exactly. If you like provolone, and that's what Graham used to use, is a nice slice of provolone, and it would melt and it would get really chewy, and that's kind of what you're looking for. But mozzarella cheese is what most people have.
Right.
And then what's most importantly, what makes it a Parmesan is just Parmesan.
I think for me, when I'm cooking, I find a recipe and I follow it to the T because I don't know any better. But being able to substitute things that, so instead of going and buying provolone and be able to say, oh, I have some mozzarella, so I'll use that instead. That's a huge tip. I mean, that makes life much easier, makes life cheaper, and doesn't mean you're going to sacrifice the recipe. It's still going to work.
And that's a lot of it with cooking is like that, is you do start off, follow that recipe so you understand the methods and the procedures. Okay. And then once you start saying, I wonder if that tastes good with that, and that's where families and stuff will have to put up. I know my family put up with a lot of stuff going, oh, it's okay, but it could have. Yeah, but again, that's how you learn.
It's some experimentation then, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Okay. Perfect. I'm just going to throw this in the broiler, and we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Easy Eats with Chef Yves Deschênes. And again, I've got Alex Boyd from the Greener Village here with me today, and we're making eggplant Parmesan sandwiches. So to make a sandwich, you're going to need, you're going to need a bun or bread to do it. So traditionally, the way my grandma used to make it was we used to use a nice crusty roll. I've kind of adapted it to a hamburger bun because crusty rolls can be a little bit expensive, and if you haven't made them at home, and you always have a burger bun kicking around. So today we've got these lovely burger buns, and I'm just going to fry it up because you want a nice crispy sandwich. So you can toast them either on the grill or in the pan, but I always like grabbing a little bit of butter and just spreading it right across, kind of like when you're making grilled cheese, Alex. You know that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I'm quite good at making. So that I can understand that.
You can understand that reference for sure. So what you can do is you can get fancy with this too. Is like if you had a little bit of garlic butter or anything like that, that would totally intensify. But again, like I said,
even some garlic powder maybe on top of the butter would probably give a little bit of that kick, would it?
You could, or even better yet, just incorporate it into and make your own garlic butter.
Oh, okay.
And exactly. Garlic butter is just butter with garlic powder, maybe a little bit of parsley and salt and pepper.
Okay.
So all we're going to do now is we're just going to put them in the pan, and we're just going to basically we're just going to toast them.
And so you basically can do this part of it while everything's being broiled.
Well, exactly. So speaking of broiler, when we went off to break, we tossed it in the broiler, so now it's more than likely it is ready. We're just going to pull these out. There we go.
Oh my, they look really good.
Super tasty, don't they? So we're just going to move that right here just so you take a look. And there we go. So you got everything nice and brown.
And they smell so good.
And it's a great vegetarian option is what it is. So if people who like eggplant Parmesan and or chicken parm or veal parm or things like that, you can definitely go to a vegetarian type option.
But what you're saying is you could use the same recipe with any of those meat products as well.
Absolutely. Again, eggplant is a whole lot cheaper than a piece of chicken, or a piece of veal, but and it tastes just as good. So our buns now are. Let me grab the spatula here. are ready, nice and toasty, just like this. Now I've got those. I'm going to shut the heat off. And basically all we're going to do is we're going to build our sandwiches. So we've got our 2 buns right here. Depends on how hearty you want your sandwich to be. I like making mine fairly hearty, so I'm going to put 2 pieces of eggplant on top, just like that.
Oh, it's like a double.
Like a double stack. Oops. Like a double stack, and that's okay. We won't see that. Yeah, you can do a double stack, a triple stack, however you want. A late night snack. And there we go. And all you do is you top it with a little more Parmesan, because why not? And then we just top like that. And there we go. You get yourself a lovely...
I mean, they look amazing. They smell amazing. Talk to me about how much this meal would cost to make if you were trying to, if you didn't have all the ingredients, perhaps you had to buy some. How much would it cost to put something like this together?
Put something like this together? Well, I mean, you're buying, if we'll look at the grocery list. So if you're buying a dozen eggs, it's like $4.30 to buy a dozen eggs, but you only need 2.
Right.
So you take that off. So you're $4 for your eggs. A can of tomato sauce is about $1.79. Lucky I went grocery shopping yesterday.
Yeah,
so
you got the prices
everything's
up.
fresh in my head. Right now, $5 for a block of cheese, and you're only using a quarter of that block. So you're looking at your eggplant, depending on sale price and stuff like that. I think for that eggplant, I paid like $1.25 for it. So you had that $1.25 with 50 cents of sauce. There's $1.75 right there. Your Parmesan cheese, you got another 5 cents. That's $1.80. Put another 75 cents worth of cheese and then 25 cents worth of stuff. So now you're at like $2.80. I mean, I've got 2 sandwiches here, but I can make 1, 2, 3, 4. I can make 6 more sandwiches. So
you're saying you can make sandwiches for 6 people for about $5?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a pretty affordable meal. I mean, you spend a lot more. And I'm smelling it, and my mouth's watering because I'm thinking that's as good as you'd buy at a restaurant for 20 or 25.
Well, no, that's exactly it. And then that's exactly it. It depends on where you want to spend your money and where you want to spend your time, right? If you've got the disposable income and you don't want to take the time to cook, well, then go to the restaurant. But a lot of us don't have that. We have a lot of time, but we don't have the money. So take that extra 5, 10, 15 minutes. I mean, it took us, 15 minutes to do this today?
Yeah, and I was bugging you by asking you questions the whole time. So if you were really going for it, you probably could do it even faster.
Well, exactly. So there we go. So we got this lovely...
All right, so do I get to bite into one of these on camera?
Absolutely, if you want to. What we'll do is we'll slice it open, and you and I can kind of share that right there. So you got this lovely sandwich right there.
Look at that. So maybe I'll hold that up so that everybody can see just how nice that looks. And I can tell you, it smells fantastic.
That's awesome. So thanks a lot, Alex, for joining me today, telling us a little bit about the Greener Village, and giving me the opportunity to be able to do this kind of stuff. It's really rewarding for me to work here because we are really helping people and we're showing people how to really tighten up their budget and how to show people how it's easy eats with Chef Yves, guys.
And the reality is, you can eat good on a limited budget, and I'm going to try it out on camera so you guys can watch. So. Oh man, that's good.
I may as well join you.
So stay tuned for more Easy Eats, because if everything else is as good as this is going to be a great way for you to learn how to cook good food for cheap.
And it brings back memories because now I'm 12 years old again in my grandmother's kitchen and I'm eating an eggplant parmesan. So thanks guys for joining me today. We'll see you again.